Superman from 2025 reinterprets the origins of the most iconic superhero by focusing on the early period of Clark Kent's life, when he is still learning what it means to bear the responsibility of extraordinary power. Instead of retreading the familiar beats of his childhood in Smallville, the film concentrates on Clark's transition into adulthood, capturing his struggle to reconcile the quiet, compassionate values he was raised with and the overwhelming expectations placed upon him once the world realizes someone like him exists. The story grounds Superman emotionally by showing that he becomes a symbol of hope, not because he is invincible, but because he continuously chooses empathy over dominance, restraint over force, and kindness over fear. He is depicted not as a flawless figure, but as a young man who must confront uncertainty, identity, and the burden of standing apart from everyone he cares about. The film begins with Clark arriving in Metropolis after leaving Smallville behind, determined to start a new life where no one knows his abilities. Working at the Daily Planet as an intern rather than a full-time journalist, Clark tries to blend in by suppressing his strength, hiding his speed, and avoiding any situation that could reveal who he truly is. His awkwardness and gentleness make him stand out in subtle ways, drawing curiosity from Lois Lane, an ambitious, sharp-minded reporter known for tackling corruption and uncovering political scandals. Lois sees something unusual in Clark, not because she suspects he is superhuman, but because his sincerity feels out of place in a city fueled by ambition and skepticism. Their early interactions are filled with warmth, humor, and unspoken tension, laying the foundation for a relationship built not on destiny but genuine connection. Metropolis is portrayed as a city on the verge of chaos, struggling with rising inequality, corporate greed, and political instability. At the center of these issues is Lex Luthor, a charismatic billionaire whose carefully constructed public image hides his obsession with control and perfection. Lex views Metropolis as a reflection of his own greatness, and he envisions reshaping the world through technology, surveillance, and order. When unexplained disasters begin occurring, bridges collapsing, unexplained explosions, and experimental technology going haywire, the city falls into fear. Clark instinctively helps in subtle ways at first, using his speed to rescue civilians or his strength to stabilize failing structures without being seen. But as the catastrophes escalate, he realizes he cannot remain anonymous forever. The turning point occurs when a massive energy reactor developed by Luthor Corp goes critical during a public demonstration. Clark is forced to reveal himself for the first time as he prevents the reactor from detonating, saving thousands of lives. The crowd watches in awe as he lifts the collapsing structure with ease, his cape tattered, his hands scorched, but his expression humble and composed. Instantly, Metropolis is divided. Some see him as a guardian angel while others fear what an alien capable of such feats might become. The world's media obsess over his identity, and governments quietly begin researching how to contain or neutralize someone like him. Clark, overwhelmed by the sudden attention, struggles with the realization that saving lives also means being exposed to scrutiny, suspicion, and pressure unlike anything he has faced before. Lois becomes the first person to approach him not as a threat or spectacle, but as a human being. She interviews him on a rooftop, asking what he wants, why he chose to help, and how he sees himself now that the world knows he exists. Clark explains that he does not seek glory or authority. He simply could not watch people suffer when he had the ability to intervene. His sincerity impresses Lois and deepens her belief that truth and compassion can coexist with power. Their dynamic becomes one of the emotional cores of the film, illustrating how human connection grounds Clark's identity and helps shape the symbol he will eventually become. Lois sees him not as Superman but as Clark, someone who wants to belong even as he stands apart from everyone else. Lex Luthor, however, reacts differently. He becomes obsessed with studying this mysterious figure who disrupted his demonstration and overshadowed his technological achievements. Lex interprets Superman's existence as a direct challenge to human progress and to his own influence. He convinces himself that no being should have such power, especially not one he cannot control. Lex begins constructing a narrative portraying Superman as a potential tyrant whose arrival could mark the downfall of human autonomy. His fear quickly turns into paranoia and ambition as he plans to expose Superman's origins and manipulate global powers into viewing him as a threat. As Clark becomes more confident in helping people, he crafts a suit inspired by Kryptonian materials found in the ship that brought him to Earth. The suit becomes a symbol not of dominance but of identity, a merging of his alien heritage and earthly upbringing. In parallel, Clark learns about Krypton through stored messages and holograms left by his biological parents. These messages reveal that he was not sent to conquer Earth but to survive, thrive, and inspire. The film uses these sequences to highlight Clark's internal conflict about belonging. Krypton represents the past he never knew, while Earth holds the people he loves and the values he cherishes. He understands that being Superman is not about choosing one identity over the other, but accepting that he carries both within him. Clark realizes Lex is behind the chaos, but struggles with the moral dilemma of confronting a human adversary who poses ideological rather than physical danger. He fears that any aggressive move he makes will reinforce Lex's claims that Superman is a threat. Lois becomes his anchor once again, reminding him that being a hero means acting, not hiding. The climactic battle takes place in the streets and skies of Metropolis as Lex unleashes his drone army powered by unstable Kryptonian energy. The machines wreak havoc, forcing Superman to fight with both precision and compassion, prioritizing civilian safety even when it puts him at risk. The film emphasizes that his greatest strength is not his power but his restraint, his refusal to see humans as fragile or insignificant, and his deep respect for life. Superman ultimately confronts Lex face-to-face in the wreckage of Luthor Corp Tower. Lex delivers a monologue declaring that humanity should never kneel to a godlike alien, and that he is the only one capable of protecting the world from someone like Superman. Clark responds not with anger but with sorrow, explaining that power without compassion is meaningless, and that Lex's fear of being overshadowed blinded him to the good Superman tries to do. In the end, Lex is exposed for orchestrating the attacks and is arrested, though he vows to prove one day that Superman is the real danger. Metropolis begins to rebuild once again, and Superman becomes a symbol of hope rather than fear. Clark returns to the Daily Planet, quietly stepping back into his human life while embracing his role as Guardian. His dual identity becomes not a burden but a balance. The film closes with Superman soaring above the city at sunrise, carrying the weight of expectation with humility rather than pride, signaling that his journey is only beginning.